Hey everyone, and welcome to another video for the channel. Today we're going to do something a lot of you are not going to like. We're going to talk some serious smack about one of the hottest bikes on the market right now, the Chinese machine that in 2025 became the third best-selling motorcycle in Spain, blowing past Japanese and European giants with decades of history behind them. I'm talking about the Zontes 368G, the crossover scooter that literally came in and blew up the market with 7,145 registered units in under 12 months, and that in 2026 has already surpassed 4,000 units sold in the Spanish market alone. A Chinese beast packing a single-cylinder 368 cubic centimeters engine, 38 horsepower, 40 newton-meters of torque, an 8-inch TFT display, Sony cameras with night vision, a 41mm Kayaba inverted fork, and all of that for just 4,900 euros. Yeah, you read that right, under 5 grand. While the Honda ADV 350 runs you 6,800 euros, the Zontes 368G shows up with more standard equipment and $2,000 cheaper. Sounds almost too good to be true. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. Because behind that unbeatable price tag and that spec sheet-worthy equipment list, there are 7 concrete, technical, and very real reasons why this bike might not be the right one for you. So guys, get comfortable and let's get into it. Reason number 1. It's a scooter in trail clothing, and off the pavement, it sends you the bill. Let's be honest right from the start. This Zontes looks aggressive. It's got crash guards, a 17-inch front wheel, long travel suspension, switchable ABS, and dual sport tires. Everything about it suggests you can head into the mountains without a second thought. But the reality tells a very different story. The moment you leave the tarmac, a fundamental truth comes out. One no dealership is going to volunteer on their own. The engine sits at the rear of the chassis, just like any conventional scooter. The transmission is a continuously variable automatic with 0 engine braking. And the foot peg position, with the rear peg set wide apart, forces your legs too far open when you're navigating technical terrain. Specialized journalists who tested it on dirt confirmed it without sugarcoating. It is what it is, a scooter. It can handle decent gravel tracks, compacted dirt roads, the occasional loose rock descent. But if your idea of adventure involves ravines, mud, rocks, rooted climbs, or enduro-level terrain, the 368G is going to leave you stranded, literally. And on top of that, at 203 kilograms ready to ride, picking it back up after a drop is not going to be a fun experience. The fork offers 154 millimeters of travel and the rear shocks 114. But the CVT's lack of engine braking means that on technical descents, the bike pushes forward with no real control. The 180 millimeters of ground clearance are respectable, but nowhere near enough for the expectations the bike's own design creates. If you're looking for a real dual sport to take into the backcountry, that same budget gets you a Honda CRF 300L, a Royal Enfield Himalayan, or a used Yamaha Tenere 700. The 368G is an asphalt champion with an adventurous personality. But let's not confuse personality with current capability. Reason number 2. 203 kilos is not a lightweight, and seat height could be your worst enemy. Zontes lists 203 kilograms wet weight for the 2025 version, though the 2026 Euro 5 Plus update managed to bring that number down to 197 kilograms with a full tank, thanks to a lighter exhaust and some material tweaks. But 197 kilograms is still a very serious number to maneuver in the city, park in a tight spot, or turn around in an alley. Add to that a seat height of 790 millimeters and a considerably wide center tunnel, because underneath that seat there's room for 2 full-face helmets, which is fantastic for touring, but means your legs end up spread wide when you try to plant your feet on the ground. If you're under 1.70 meters tall, you're touching down on your tiptoes at best. On an urban scooter, that wouldn't be such a big deal because the CVT gives you a smooth takeoff. But in low-speed maneuvers, on ramp inclines, or in parking lot turns, that dead weight makes itself known. And a stationary tip-over with 200 kilograms on top of you, even at a red light, can be costly. For the bike, and for your ego. Compare this to the Kymco DTX 350, which weighs just 193 kilograms wet, or the Honda ADV 350, which is even lighter. Weight is the price you pay for all that premium equipment. Reason number 3, the after-sales service network doesn't have the maturity of Honda, Yamaha, or BMW. Zontes is a brand under the Chinese Guangdong Taiyou Motorcycle Technology Group, founded in 2003, with a presence in Europe since 2018, less than a decade in the Western market. And even though its sales figures are spectacular and the quality of its products has improved enormously, its official technical service network still doesn't have the density or the maturity that Japanese or European brands have built over 50 years of establishment. If you live in a big city, you probably have a Zontes dealer nearby. But if you're in a rural area, in a Latin American country where the brand has just arrived, or if you urgently need a specific spare part, the wait might be a lot longer than you'd expect. The official warranty on the 2025 version was one of the most criticized points by the user community. 3 years, when the Zontes 703 launched at the same time, offered 5. That's a red flag. Why does the brand trust the durability of this model less than its bigger sibling? On the 2026 version, the warranty improved, but the debate is still on the table. For a Honda, Yamaha, or Kawasaki buyer, taking the bike in for service is an experience refined over decades. For a Zontes owner in markets where the brand is still expanding, that experience is still being built. Reason number 4. The continuous variator is automatic, and that's not for every rider. If you're coming from riding motorcycles with a manual gearbox, the 368G can feel like a strange, even frustrating experience. The CVT continuous variator, the same transmission system found in any scooter, gives you absolute smoothness and comfort in the city, but it completely takes away your control over gears, engine braking, and that sense of direct connection with the engine. In fast corners, the lack of engine braking means the rider has to manage braking in a completely different way than they would on a conventional motorcycle. On long descents, the variator doesn't brake, it just rolls. And even though sport mode improves throttle response, it doesn't change the automatic nature of the system. For riders coming from scooters, or who are looking purely for urban comfort, this is an advantage. For the motorcyclist who enjoys shifting gears, who's chasing that road feel, and who wants to play with the gearbox through a tight corner, the 368G's variator can become a permanent source of dissatisfaction. Here, the most honest comparison isn't with the Honda ADV, but with options like the Honda CB300, the CF Moto 450 MT, or the Yamaha MT-03, which at a similar price point offer the active riding experience that many motorcyclists are really looking for. Reason number 5. The resale value of a Chinese brand with no track record is a big unknown. This is the reason nobody talks about enough, but it hits hardest when you run the real financial numbers on this purchase. A Honda ADV 350, a Yamaha XMAX, or any BMW has a relatively predictable resale value because the used market for them is mature, demand is well established, and buyers already know the brand. With the Zontes 368G, the picture is different. The model has only been on the global market for about a year and a half. There's no historical depreciation curve yet. There's no solid data on what a 368G with 30,000 kilometers on the clock is actually worth, how its mechanical reliability holds up over the long term, or how well it's really being accepted in the used market. Some owners who chose the Honda ADV 350 over the 368G did it for exactly this reason. Honda's resale value has been proven over decades. Zontes hasn't. Not yet. If you're planning to keep the bike for 5 years and then sell it, this factor can eat up that attractive price difference you saw at the dealership. The equation isn't just the purchase price. It's the total cost of ownership, depreciation included. Reason number 6. All that technology could end up being your Achilles heel. The Zontes 368G is, without a doubt, the most tech-loaded bike at its price point. An 8-inch TFT display with smartphone mirroring, HD cameras with a Sony night vision sensor, and 128 gigabytes of internal storage, real-time tire pressure and temperature sensors, traction control managed by Bosch Electronics, keyless entry with centralized locking, heated grips and seat, disconnectable dual-channel ABS, and on the 2026 ETC version, a Bosch ride-by-wire electronic throttle with cruise control. That's an impressive amount of electronics packed into a bike under 5,000 euros. And here's the problem. More technology means more potential points of failure. When one of those Sony cameras goes out, when the TFT screen loses calibration, when the mirroring system stops syncing, how much does the diagnosis cost? How much for the part? How many shops around the world actually have real experience with Zontes-specific electronics? Japanese brands have spent decades refining their electronic systems, and they have globally certified technician networks. Zontes is still building that ecosystem. Buying the most loaded bike on the market today also means being among the first to find out what breaks and how to fix it. Reason number 7. The stigma of Chinese origin still affects the resale market in many countries. This last reason is the most uncomfortable, the most honest, and the one that sparks the most debate. Zontes builds genuinely high-quality motorcycles. Their engines are in-house developments, their electronics are Bosch, their brakes are Spanish-made J.Juan, and their build quality has passed rigorous testing in demanding markets. But in many countries across Latin America, South Asia, and Africa, the cultural stigma against Chinese brands still runs strong in the used bike market and in how owners are perceived socially. And on top of that, Zontes has no commercial presence in the United States. In those markets, reselling a Zontes at a fair price can be tougher than reselling an equivalent Honda or Yamaha. Not because the bike is worse, but because the collective mindset of the used bike buyer still links China with disposability, with fragility, with things built to be thrown away. It's unfair. It's a perception that's changing fast, and the 2025 sales numbers prove that shift is already happening in Europe. But if you live in a market where that stigma still lingers, buying one today could mean selling it for less tomorrow than its Japanese equivalent would fetch. And that's a real factor that needs to be part of your buying equation. So to wrap it up, guys, this Zontes is objectively one of the most iconic products to hit the two-wheel market in the last 10 years. A Chinese motorcycle that outsold Honda and Yamaha in Europe within its category is a historic fact that nobody can ignore. Its technology, its equipment, and its price are knockout arguments. But buying a motorcycle isn't just about getting swept up by the impact it makes at the dealership. It's about understanding what it's actually good for, who can service it near where you live, what it'll be worth when you're ready to trade it in, and whether the kind of riding it offers is really what you're looking for. If you're an urban rider who takes weekend getaways, who values comfort and technology, and who has access to official technical service, the 368G could be the best two-wheel purchase of your life. But if you're an experienced rider who knows their way around a gearbox, who wants to get into real, serious routes, and who lives in a market with low brand penetration, then this video was made exactly for you. The perfect motorcycle doesn't exist. Only the perfect motorcycle for each person exists. If this analysis helped you see the 368G in a new light, whether that means buying it or crossing it off your list, then the goal has been met. Smash that like button if you want more honest content like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me which reason hits closest to home for you. Ride safe, and I'll see you in the next video.